Imagine a universe where power already exists, but no one yet knows what power means. No heroes, no villains, no rebellion, not even the idea of justice. Authority is present, but it has no personality. This is the moment in Greek cosmology when the Titans first appear. Later mythology will describe them as rulers, parents, tyrants, and defeated gods. Those stories belong to a later world, a world where divine beings behave like characters. But at the beginning, the Titans were something far stranger. They were not introduced as individuals competing for dominance. They were positions inside a structure. Each one represented a force that stabilized a part of the cosmos. Their presence did not create drama. It created architecture. For the first time since chaos, the universe was no longer just existing. It was beginning to organize itself. And once structure appears, power begins to behave in a very different way. When people hear the word Titan, they usually imagine ancient gods ruling the universe before Zeus. Massive beings, immense strength, personal ambition. But this image belongs to a much later interpretation of myth. At the moment the Titans first emerged, the cosmos was not yet a stage for divine personalities. There were no jealous gods, no rival kingdoms, no emotional conflicts between generations. Something quieter, and more important, was happening. The universe was assigning roles to its own forces. Oceanus represented the circulation of water. Hyperion represented the presence of light. Mnemosyne represented the preservation of memory. These were not jobs chosen by individuals. They were domains required by the structure of reality itself. In this early stage of myth, Titans were not personalities wielding power. They were the mechanisms through which power operated. And once those mechanisms existed, the universe began to behave less like chaos and more like a system. Before the Titans appeared, forces already existed throughout the cosmos. But those forces had no fixed positions. Chaos allowed everything to exist, yet nothing had a defined responsibility. Energies moved freely. Forms appeared and disappeared, but no domain remained stable. The emergence of the Titans changed that condition. For the first time, the universe divided its powers into territories. Light occupied its domain. Ocean occupied its domain. Memory occupied its domain. Each Titan anchored one part of reality in place. This transformation did not require intention. The Titans did not choose their roles any more than gravity chooses to pull objects downward. They simply existed because the structure of the cosmos required them to exist. Once every force had a position, the universe stopped behaving like a storm of possibilities. It began to function like a system. And systems, by their nature, create stability. Created the first stable architecture of the Greek cosmos. Each domain operated within its own boundaries. Ocean did not compete with light. Memory did not challenge the sky. The structure simply functioned. This stability did not arise from wisdom or cooperation. It emerged because every Titan occupied a position that did not overlap with the others. The result was a universe that behaved almost like a mechanism. Processes continued. Cycles repeated. Forces maintained their territories. Nothing in this structure needed to argue or justify itself. Power did not require approval. It did not seek recognition. It operated because the system demanded that it operate. For the first time since existence began, the cosmos was not improvising. It was running. And that quiet efficiency would define the entire age of the Titans. Each Titan represented a domain that could not be reduced to personal choice. Oceanus was not a king ruling water. He was the principle through which water circulated through the world. Hyperion did not command light. He embodied the presence of illumination within the cosmos. Mnemosyne did not collect memories the way humans remember events. She represented the possibility that the universe itself could preserve information. These figures were not acting out stories. They were expressions of structure. The Titans formed a map of reality, dividing the universe into functional regions. Every domain supported the others, not through alliances, but through necessity. This arrangement allowed the cosmos to maintain balance without negotiation. Nothing in the system depended on persuasion or emotion. The Titans did not decide to cooperate. They existed within a framework where cooperation was simply the natural result of structure. And because of this, the Titan order could maintain stability without needing any form of morality. In the world of the Titans, power existed without judgment. There was no concept of justice guiding their actions. No ethical system determined how authority should be used. This absence did not create cruelty, but it also did not create compassion. Power simply performed its function. Oceanus circulated water because circulation belonged to his domain. Hyperion illuminated the world because light was part of his structure. Mnemosyne preserved memory because information needed continuity. None of these actions required intention. They were as natural as gravity. In later mythology, the gods of Olympus will argue, love, betray, and punish. Their power will carry personality and emotion, but the Titans existed before that transformation. Their authority did not express character. It expressed structure. And that difference created a form of order that was incredibly stable. Yet that stability came with a cost the universe had not yet discovered. If we imagine the Titan order visually, it resembles a vast machine. Every Titan functions like a component within a cosmic mechanism. Each part performs its role without questioning the system that contains it. Light continues to shine. Water continues to flow. Memory continues to preserve the past. The mechanism does not pause to reflect on its purpose. It simply operates. Because the Titans lacked individual ambition, nothing in the system attempted to disrupt the balance. No domain tried to expand beyond its boundaries. The universe moved with the quiet regularity of a machine whose gears are perfectly aligned. This mechanical stability allowed the cosmos to maintain equilibrium for a long period of mythic time. But machines possess a particular weakness. They are excellent at repeating what they already know. They are far less capable of adapting when the conditions around them begin to change. And eventually, the conditions of the universe would change. The Titan order created balance. But it was a balance without warmth. Because the Titans did not possess personal motivations, their system contained no compassion, no forgiveness, and no curiosity. It was stable, but emotionally empty. Later generations of gods would bring chaos through their personalities. They would argue, desire, and challenge authority. But those same emotions would also make the cosmos more dynamic. The Titans existed before such complexity. Their system functioned with perfect neutrality. Nothing within it could rebel, but nothing within it could transform itself either. The universe during this era behaved like a perfectly balanced equation. Every variable held its place. Every force remained within its limits. For a time, this condition appeared ideal, but stability without the possibility of change often hides problems that remain invisible until the moment they become unavoidable. When people think about Greek mythology, they usually imagine the Olympian gods. Zeus hurling thunder, Athena shaping wisdom, Ares embodying war. These gods possess strong personalities and conflicting desires. Their stories are dramatic because they behave like powerful individuals. The Titans belong to an earlier stage of the universe. Their authority did not come from character. It came from structural necessity. They did not debate decisions or struggle with emotions. Instead, they maintained the domains that allowed reality to function. In this sense, the Titans represent a transitional phase between chaos and the mythological world familiar to us. Chaos was formless possibility. The Olympians would bring psychological drama. The Titans stood between these stages as the architects of structure. And because they lacked personal identity, their system seemed almost impossible to disturb. But every structure, no matter how stable, eventually encounters a problem. Imagine possessing enormous power while lacking any sense of self. No ambition, no fear, no desire to rule. That was the condition of the Titans. Their authority did not belong to an individual identity. It belonged to the domain they embodied. In a sense, the Titans were less like rulers and more like natural laws.
The light of Hyperion.
Just as gravity does not decide to pull objects downward, the Titans did not decide to maintain their domains. They simply did. This absence of personal will made the system extraordinarily durable. Nothing inside the Titan order attempted to overthrow it. Nothing inside it sought to change the balance. Yet this same absence created a hidden vulnerability. Because when power has no identity, it also has no mechanism for adapting to new circumstances. And sooner or later, the universe would face circumstances the Titans had never been designed to handle. The Titan order maintained stability for one simple reason. Its domains did not overlap. Each Titan governed a region of reality that remained clearly separated from the others. Light did not attempt to become water. Memory did not attempt to control the sky. This separation prevented competition. Without competition, the system avoided conflict. The Titans did not need to negotiate power because the structure of the cosmos had already divided that power into distinct territories. As long as these territories remained stable, the universe continued to function without disturbance. Cycles repeated. Processes sustained themselves. The cosmos moved forward with quiet consistency. From the perspective of structure, this arrangement was extremely efficient. But efficiency is not the same as resilience. A system can operate flawlessly for long periods of time while still containing weaknesses that only appear when new forces enter the equation. And time itself was preparing to introduce those forces. Even the most stable system cannot escape the passage of time. As the universe continued to develop, new generations of divine beings would eventually emerge. These new forces would not necessarily fit into the domains established by the Titans. Structure that once seemed permanent would face pressures it had never anticipated. The Titan order was designed to maintain balance, not to reorganize itself. It had no built-in mechanism for replacing one authority with another. This limitation did not matter at first. As long as nothing challenged the system, the Titans could maintain their positions indefinitely. But the future rarely respects structures that refuse to evolve. When new powers begin to appear, the question of succession inevitably arises. And in the Titan order, succession had never been considered. The system knew how to maintain itself. It did not know how to change. Every stable structure eventually faces a simple question: what happens when the future arrives? In human societies, systems create methods of succession. Leaders step down. Positions change hands. Authority moves from one generation to the next. The Titan order possessed no such mechanism. Each domain was occupied permanently by the Titan who embodied it. There was no process for transferring power. The structure assumed that the world would remain exactly as it was. For a long time, that assumption seemed safe, but the universe was still evolving. New forms of divinity would soon appear, bringing with them forces that could not easily fit into the rigid architecture of the Titan system. When those forces arrived, the absence of succession would become impossible to ignore. And a structure that cannot change often reacts in only one way: it resists. At first glance, the Titan order appeared perfect. Every domain was stable. Every force had a clear position. Nothing interfered with the operation of the system. But beneath that apparent perfection lay a structural flaw. The system had no method for adaptation. If new powers emerged, the existing domains could not expand to include them. The Titans had no procedure for sharing authority or stepping aside. The structure assumed permanence. What seemed like strength was actually rigidity. A system that cannot bend eventually faces the risk of breaking. Yet at this moment in the mythic timeline, the Titans remained unaware of this vulnerability. Their order continued to function with the quiet certainty of natural law. The cosmos still appeared calm, but the calm existed only because the forces that would challenge it had not yet arrived. Conflict does not always begin with anger. Sometimes it begins with structure. When a system cannot adjust to new realities, tension slowly accumulates within it. The pressure may remain invisible for long periods of time, but eventually it becomes impossible to ignore. The Titan order contained exactly this kind of hidden tension. Its stability depended on the assumption that the universe would never change in ways the system could not accommodate. Yet the history of myth shows that change is inevitable. New gods would appear. New forces would demand space within the cosmos. When those forces encountered the rigid architecture of Titan authority, the balance of the system would begin to strain. The Titans had built a stable world, but stability alone cannot guarantee survival, because when the future arrives, even the most powerful structures must decide whether they will adapt or resist. As time moved forward, the universe approached a turning point. New divine generations would soon emerge from the Titan lineage itself. These younger beings would not exist merely as functions within a system. They would possess identity, ambition, and will. Their presence would introduce something the Titan Order had never contained before: choice. With choice comes the possibility of disagreement. With disagreement comes the possibility of conflict. The mechanical stability of the Titan world had never needed to address these conditions. But the arrival of self-aware power would force the cosmos to reconsider its structure. A system built on function alone might struggle to contain beings who understood themselves as individuals. And once individuality enters a structure, the rules of power begin to change. The calm age of the Titans was approaching its first true test. For now, however, the universe still remained quiet. The domains of the Titans continued to operate as they always had. Light shone, water flowed, memory preserved the past. Nothing inside the system openly challenged the balance. From the outside, the Titan Order still appeared perfectly stable. Yet history often hides its turning points inside moments that seem ordinary. The structure of the cosmos was about to encounter a question it had never needed to answer before. Who holds power when new power appears? Without a method for succession, every established authority faces the same dilemma. To maintain control, it must refuse change. But refusing change often creates the very conflicts it hopes to avoid. The Titan world had not yet reached that moment, but it was moving steadily toward it. The age of the Titans was not defined by chaos or war. It was defined by stability. But that stability did not exist because the system was wise or flexible. It existed because nothing within the structure had yet forced it to confront its limitations. The Titans maintained order by continuing the roles they had always occupied. The universe functioned like a mechanism whose parts had never been replaced. For a time, that mechanism appeared permanent. Yet time itself has a way of revealing the weaknesses hidden inside even the most stable structures. When new powers rise, the question of succession cannot remain unanswered. And the Titan Order had never prepared for that question. In the next stage of the mythic story, the stability of the Titans will face its first real challenge. Because every structure, no matter how strong, eventually encounters a moment when the future demands change.